Two beans.
And we are live. Live. That's what they call it. And welcome to episode 128 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, full of the 1/6 figurines, and all the way from Dublin, Ireland, we've got Marty from the Trash Picture Show, and it's always good to see him. We haven't seen him since I think Starship Troopers, so that was quite a while ago.
Either that or Total Recall. I don't remember which one.
I can't remember. I think it was Troopers.
Okay.
Yeah, Trooper. I don't think I was on for Recall. I don't think.
I think you were. I thought you were, but all right. It's usually us when it comes to.
It's been that long. We'll just say that.
Yeah, when Marty's on, there's usually Eric and Ryan.
Right.
Now that begs us to move down one and go to the Ryan Daly. With a little of the light shining there behind his head there. All right. And then we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. And it's always good to have him.
Glad to be here, dude.
Back from last week when I was feeling really fucking under the weather. But here I am today.
Anthony Kiedis will do that to anybody, my friend.
Yeah, well, and we were glad to shout Ryan out for celebrating that Anthony Kiedis got shot in the foot.
One of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, so, there you go. So, we've got a movie here tonight that is essentially based on a Rocky IV joke. This movie, I don't know how many people know this, actually came to fruition because somebody made a joke that, okay, well, Rocky has fought everyone. The next person he's going to have to fight is going to be some sort of alien. That's the only person left for him to fight. And so someone grabbed that idea, I think that was in the room, and decided to write a screenplay. That wasn't necessarily designed for Sylvester Stallone, but this idea of a super creature that 35 years later we're still talking about. Next Friday, August 5th, on Hulu, there's a new Predator movie coming out called Prey. And I'm hopeful that it will be a worthy successor. We haven't had one of those in a while. The Predator franchise has, the star has dropped, and they haven't been able to create a movie. They haven't been able to create a movie that equals the first one in 35.
It's one of the most beat to death franchises. I mean,
yeah, and there's a lot that you could do. This, it looks like they're trying to do something somewhat original. Where the Predator is going to be fighting a Native American village, one particular warrior, a female warrior. It looks a little woke to me. And so, I'm sort of, cautiously sticking my toe in the water, but I'm hoping good things because, as much as I criticize because I want these things to actually be good. Yeah. And so, I want to be able to say that the new fucking Predator movie was fucking lit. And then talk about why it was lit and talk to my friends about why it was lit, so on and so forth. When it isn't, I want to be able to say, well, what the fuck was, why did anybody think they're green like that? And then, point out the specific reasons why, I think it just fucking flopped. But that leads us to the source material, which is John McTiernan's original Predator. And I thought a week before the release of the new movie to take a look at the source material itself and have an active comparison for next week when I sit down and watch Prey and see how it actually holds up. So if you boys are ready, shall we get it going?
Been ready.
Do it.
Go for it.
Boogity woogity. Okay, that's not it. in an active comparison to show how bloated Hollywood has kind of become, there's a new series with reptiles in them, and it's coming to HBO, I think, in a couple of weeks. I think early September, right around Labor Day weekend. The Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. And I'm hoping good things for it because I want it to beat Amazon's Rings of Power, because I just have absolutely no tolerance for, trying to desecrate Tolkien or things that are based on Lord of the Rings, and to give somebody's interpretation of what they think Tolkien meant as if they're actually fucking Tolkien, because
those clowns had the audacity to show up at SDCC at the San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh yeah,
it's a
thing. This has cost $500 million.
Wow.
So they're not pinching pennies here.
No, I know.
There's some cheap production. They're throwing what they feel is their best. I don't want to get into why.
No.
It's probably going to fall off. But what I'm saying is that $500 million. Okay, $500 million for 10 episodes. House of the Dragon on HBO coming up, $30 million per episode. And I assure you, if that doesn't take off in the first season, it will probably be canceled because HBO is not going to continue to throw that kind of. They don't have Bezos money.
Yeah.
Bezos bought Sony just to get his bought Fox just to get his hands on X-Men. He bought $500 million or $250 million or $300 million to the Tolkien estate just to get the rights to the appendices to Tolkien.
Wow, that just makes me think. $30 million an episode, and a show you and I really loved, My Carnival, was canceled after 2 seasons because it was too expensive to make a period piece in the 30s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I say all that to say this.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, John McTiernan's Predator, made on a budget of $15 million. What a fucking banger.
Yep.
Dude, man. No, go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm going to say this real quick, and then I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah.
Too much. There's a way not to do it, and then there's the way to do it. Mm-hmm. This movie clearly demonstrates for $15 million, without a lot of special effects, without a big bloated CGI, whatever, these monstrosities. Mm-hmm. This is how it's done. Yep. Feel free. Go ahead.
If you recall, way back in one of the other early podcasts when we did our top 10 favorite horror movies, this was my number, I think 4 or 5. This is just badass. I mean, you can't, like, Arnold and a bunch of other badasses versus this alien. I mean, they took, like, it's just a great concept. And I said this back then when we were talking about it then, I would show this movie to my students because we read The Most Dangerous Game. And if you're familiar with The Most Dangerous Game, it's about a guy who gets stranded. It's about a big game hunter who gets stranded on an island owned by this Russian guy who hunts people for sport. And he hunts sailors for sport. And this is kind of like that in its own weird way. So what I would have my students do is make comparisons and contrasts, and and it worked. But this movie is just fucking gorgeous, man. It's so glorious. I love this damn movie. And I've seen it a million times. We've all seen it a million times. But it's just Arnold, Jesse Ventura, Carl Weathers, Bill Duke. I mean, everybody in that is just awesome. So,
Marty?
When someone asks me to describe what the genre of pulp is, I always go to Predator, because this is a fantastic example of modern pulp. This is very Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is very Robert E. Howard. This is, it's the classic. I don't know if you grew up. They even kind of do a meta thing where one of the characters is reading Sergeant Rock. But I don't know, back in the days, Mike, you read comics, so like the Howling Commandos, they get stranded on an island, regular war story, left field, giant insects, left field, dinosaurs, left field, fucking Aztec zombies. Perfect idea. Take a very simple kind of genre, a war story, a medieval story. Conan did it. Conan was like regular kind of fucking medieval war story. fantasy comes out of left field. With this, it's a standardized kind of Arnie combat movie where an alien comes out of left field. It is perfect pulp at its purest form.
Oh yeah,
and that's why I love this movie.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah. Eric, what you got?
Mike, ever since you know my love for this movie, ever since you announced it months ago, like before Prey was even a thought, I was down. And whenever Marty has a stream and it's Predator related, he always throws out at least a link to me because we're, like he said before we went on, like his show when we're together should be like the Predator fanboys or something like that.
Mm.
This is like literally in my top 3 movies of all time because of how much I love it, because of how fun it is. This is one of the, like, when it comes to manliest men, this is that type of group. This
Total
is pure
macho. Yeah.
This is pure testosterone. Every character is memorable for their own reasons.
Yeah.
You can feel the brotherhood between them. And what's also great is you have one of the, in my opinion, coolest looking aliens to ever hit screen. John McTiernan shows why, especially at this time, he was a top director with Die Hard. Hunt for Red October came out, a handful of years later. The man knew what to do behind the camera. It's just so much. It's so much fun. And then, of course, you have that horror aspect to it. And then you have like the mystery of like being in the jungle. You can feel the heat of that jungle watching this movie. And there's just so many things I know we're going to get into. This beginning to end, I think this movie is, the perfect movie in my opinion. If you put everything together, like lightning in a bottle.
And I think it's one of those things where you're not expecting it. Like it starts out with like, you see this little spaceship going to Earth, and you're like, the fuck. And then all of a sudden it's like about the special forces have to go in and save.
It's a rescue mission.
Cabinet minister. It starts out as like an 80s action movie where they're kicking ass in like the camp with the Russians and all that stuff. It's like total badass. It's like Commando or something. And then all of a sudden, when they see those skin bodies hanging up, when they see Jim Hopper, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly.
And then,
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, Ryan and I went a couple of weeks ago to see The Thing for the 40th anniversary, and that opening scene where the ship, sort of flies through Earth and then hits the atmosphere, and then the rest of the movie sort of kicks off. Here, the movie starts off somewhat similarly, where a spacecraft, is just kind of moving through space, comes up on Earth, and then you see that one little pod, I guess, kind of shoot off, and then it's kind of forgotten about. It's kind of forgotten about. You forget about it because it launches into just what Ryan said, some sort of high-end action movie with an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
This could be a shit movie with a shit cast, and this could have been a very bad movie, but they put the right people together, a great cast, great director, good performances, and it's firing everywhere.
It's one of the best casts. It's one of the coolest casts. I mean, really, like when you think about it.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Carl Weathers was still pretty relevant at the time after Rocky. Rocky 3 or 4 came out at around then. Yeah. And obviously Arnold was the big star. And Jesse Ventura, didn't he have to get out of his WWE contract to do this? Or something like that? I think it was some kind of thing he had.
I hadn't heard that.
It was something. I think he had to get out of his contract, or he had to beg McMahon to get out, or something like that. Because
there was something up about it, because around the time the WrestleMania came out, that this came out, he started announcing himself basically as like Hollywood superstar, Jesse Ventura. So there might have, if there was behind the scenes stuff, they obviously, shook hands and put it behind their backs type of thing, because they started promoting him as like, I remember there was a WrestleMania where he just stood up and they made the announcement, Hollywood's newest legend or some bullshit like that, and he just waved to the crowd and sat back down. So he ran with it.
There's a lot worse. There's been a lot worse to pass through Hollywood since Jesse Ventura.
Exactly, but
Jesse Ventura, he didn't always get the greatest roles.
He wasn't in that many movies, was he?
He could have gotten better roles. You know, but I mean, he ended up becoming governor of Minnesota, which is
he was in what, Running Man before
that. He was in
right?
Running Man. He was in Demolition Man.
That's right.
He usually had non-speaking roles.
Yeah,
you know, he
He's
was
in
just
Batman
kind
and
of
Robin.
yeah, he was.
That's right.
He was like the recognizable heavy.
Yeah.
He turned up in the X-Files as well with Robert.
Yes, he was a Man in Black.
Yeah, Jose Chung's
okay.
from Outer Space. That's one of my favorite X-Files, and that's one of the few times where he actually gets lines. And you saw that with a proper script, he actually wasn't that bad of an actor. And his partner, his co-man in Black, was Alex Trebek.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Jesse Ventura and Alex Trebek. They were the Men in Black.
That's just fucking random.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
I think in this, nobody expected Jesse Ventura to get killed so early. I mean, he was
okay. Hold on. Before we get too far into it, there's some setup here in terms of production. Now, originally, this was supposed to be a story about a team of aliens. The predators themselves were supposed to be a team of different species that were hunting down on Earth, possibly getting to what is going to be the strong. It sort of flips, and that it was many aliens hunting what might be the toughest thing on Earth, which is a combat soldier. Okay, on Earth. But what it ended up, and then they pared it down and took away the species where they were maybe going to make it a one-on-one. Okay, so it would just be the Predator versus Arnold. But then ended up fleshing it out some more where they're like, Arnold's like, no, we want a team around us. You know, and that kind of thing. So it became one against many. Whereas initially it started out with many against one, and then one-on-one, and then flipped all the way where, you know, the victims were kind of the team. You know, it starts off with the possibility of Jean-Claude Van Damme as the Predator. And that would have, but I mean, I heard he was a complete prima donna. My understanding is this was a very hard shoot. It was shot in Chiapas, Mexico. Some very brutal heat. My understanding is these guys spent all day like on hills, like on declines or inclines. So you would spend the whole day with 1 foot up, one leg down. Jeez. You know, and so that could be like a 15-hour day shooting in the fucking heat. And Van Damme just wasn't prepared for that with the costume. Not to mention the fact that when they saw him in the costume at 5'9", compared to some of these guys like Jesse and Arnold and Bill Duke and Sonny Landham, it was not a. They didn't feel it was a good fit.
It wasn't just his height either, Mike. The Boss Studios were originally brought in to do the costume. They cracked open the crate, they took out the costume, and like, oh fuck.
It looked god awful. The original look of the Predator was shit.
Really?
It was a power. It looked like a baddie from a Power Ranger episode.
I heard.
It looks like a giant beetle.
Yeah.
Wow.
What happened was McTiernan decided to call a halt to the shooting, and I think they took an 8-month break. They're like, what the fuck are we going to do? Schwarzenegger luckily turned around and said, I work with this dude called Stan Winston on the Terminator. Let me contact him. He's currently over in Japan with Jim Cameron, and they're doing the promotion for Aliens that just came out. So Winston got on the phone to McTiernan, and McTiernan told him what the story was. He's like, okay, I'll be doing up some concept designs. On the flight over, he's next to fucking Jim Cameron on the plane, and Jim Cameron turns to him, I'd always like to see something with mandibles. And Stan Winston's like, who gives a fuck? Mandibles, actually, that's a good fucking idea. Like, so it's interesting that Cameron kind of had a hand in designing the Rastafarian warrior, but it was a total Hail Mary play. We got what we did because, again, as you pointed out as well, this was what, 15 million, and that budget was probably smaller. They had to spend more to make the creature, but by Christ. They really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, man.
Between the design and Kevin Peter Hall's performance.
Oh yeah.
As I was talking with Eric. Eric, if you want to talk about Kevin Peter Hall, because like you adore the guy and his performance.
I'll tell you what. You guys carry on for a second. I'll be right back. I'll be back in like 30 seconds.
First off, Marty, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is Van Damme actually? I think he is like when you see the footage of like the Predator invisible and it's real skinny, like it's leaping. That's actually Van Damme's footage.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Not only that, but also in some of the scenes, because Arnie didn't want to get slapped in the face by fucking Peter Hall. In some of the bits where he's getting slapped around in the swamp, that's Van Damme from the back.
Okay. Huh. So they did use some of his. Okay.
Yeah, like when he's running away from the firefight, and you can tell like the body's a little thinner. That's Van Damme. But what Marty was saying about Kevin Peter Hall is this man, he'd already played Harry, the Bigfoot in Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
So he's used to having to, how would I say, perform without speaking, all body language to make this creature come to life. And he, like me and Marty talked on his channel, Kevin had a background in dance, in theater. So he knew how to use his body. And you could see it in Hall's performance. Like I said, you know, he was the Bigfoot, so he had to be intimidating, you know, but lovable with this family. Here as the Predator, it looks terrifying, but there's a certain type of elegance to the way it walks, and you can tell that's in his acting, you know, his stage and his dance background, because there are many times like he has just, you know, he's skinned men and blown shit up, but there are times when he just moves just so, you know, slowly and stuff like with his shoulders. A lot of times I love, like I said, there's the final confrontation when Arnold's, you know, begging him, you know, come get me, and he just squats and he just looks around. He's very observant, and he's just so good. And Marty once said he was inspired by like tribal dancers, I think.
Yeah, the Maasai warrior dance, the African Maasai, that bit where he stretches his arms out and bellows. That's actually a tribal dance from African warriors. He incorporated that, and that's brilliant because that fleshes out the creature. That shows that this isn't just some kind of rampaging monster. It's a tribesman. It's a warrior. And that just adds an extra level.
He came back for Predator 2, and his death was very tragic. It was a big fuck up. If anyone knows what happened, he got, I don't know if it was a car accident or what, but he got HIV tainted blood during a blood transfusion. I guarantee you, especially how big practical effects were back then, he would still have a career under all that makeup and in the suits if he was still around.
He would probably be like Kane Hodder's always playing Jason. He would still be playing Predator in all these friggin'
He probably
Predator
would,
movies.
and he'd be well, and if not, he would be a go-to guy in these type of films to be able to give these character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and it's too, because you can kind of contrast how he performs the Predator against the guy who performed the Xenomorph in Alien. Another really tall dude, I forget his name, tall, skinny
Balaji
dude.
Beho. The first guy was Balaji Beho. He was an art student.
And you notice that was a different, I mean, again, it was a different kind of alien, but that guy's movements were a lot different from, you know, Hall's stuff too. I mean, you know, they're two different aliens, obviously, but it's really, he's so iconic in that role. I mean,
it's my understanding, and maybe you guys can confirm this or deny it, that he actually wasn't able to see his actions because the mask he wore blinded him. So he literally had to memorize his movements before he put the mask on to act out the scenes, which is, if actually true, is even more impressive. Hold on a second. We got some comments here. We got Jen's reviews from the grave. She's saying, good evening, gentlemen. Nice to see you, Jen. Thanks for stopping in. And we've got Polar Nights over there on Twitch. As a barber, I like this. It is the evolution of beards. So we've got one, and then, you know, I don't know how it works exactly. And then we go to Marty, and then to Eric, and then finally to Ryan. So you guys need to get to the barbershop or something. I don't know.
I will say is the one, you know, obviously we know the one scene we do finally get to see Kevin Peter Hall's face, real face at the end, because he plays the helicopter pilot. He's the chopper pilot at the very end of the movie. So he did get some screen time, as you know, we're showing his face, you know.
Ryan McTiernan felt so bad that like he was in the suit for hours and he didn't complain. So McTiernan's like, look, I'm gonna put this poor fucker in the film at least for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot more to this. I mean, Arnold had just gotten married to Maria Shriver. He cut his honeymoon to 3 days.
Wow.
And he's like, "Fuck this! I'm going back." This is old school, fucking, manly man. He's like, "Fuck this! I'm going. I gotta get back to work." And he came back and filled some fucking Predator. So 35 years later, we're thanking him. His marriage didn't last, but fucking Predator did.
His marriage may not have lasted, but you know what? He's still getting those residuals that he can give to her. So it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Somehow I don't think that she probably asked for much money. I mean, she's already a fucking Kennedy, so
and then I
probably
think
had more money than him.
And then, Mike, I think you posted on Twitter recently that quote from Jesse Ventura, where he was like thanking the fans for keeping this alive for 35 years.
35 years. It's one of those weird things. Well, we'll get into that in a minute. We had 3 a.m. workouts. Arnold, Carl, all these different, Jesse.
All these guys competing, these big muscle guys.
Arnold flew his own gym equipment in.
Wow.
He paid to have, on the set for gym equipment to be filmed. And, I think he ended up losing 20 pounds over the course of the set because it was such a strenuous fucking, production. He spent 3 weeks at the end because at the end, Arnold's the only one that's left. He and Anna, who I thought was a great character. But he spent 3 weeks covered in that mud, filming those final scenes. Stagnant water. At the end, in those fight scenes in the final battle full of leeches, it's a tough shoot, man. It's a tough shoot, but 35 years later, it's still holding up.
And
apparently, Schwarzenegger kept people's spirits high. I kept on pulling pranks. For example, Jesse Ventura went in and he was getting sorted for the wardrobe.
I know this story.
His arms measured bigger than Arnie's. He's like telling everyone, my biceps are bigger than Schwarzenegger's. Fuck yeah. And then when Arnie put on his fucking uniform, he's like, arms are big. What the fuck? Arnie had paid the wardrobe supervisor to fuck around with the measuring tape. So Ventura thought he'd have bigger arms. It's just funny. It's just guys with egos and stuff.
It's amazing how much things have changed in 35 years. It's you have the hyper masculinity. You've got the cigars. Everybody's just jacked. Out of their mind. Everyone is
tobacco.
The chewing tobacco.
Everyone's just shit out of my face.
Get that stinking shit out of my face.
One of my
everyone's
favorites,
just firing from the hip.
One of my favorite scenes. Since I just want to bring it up because we're talking about how fucking macho this group is. I mean, even Hawkins and Pancho have their moments. You know what I mean? How they're cool. They're the smaller guys, but they show why they're there.
Oh yeah.
These guys, they're pumped to the gills, biceps bigger than our fucking heads, you know what I mean? And when they're getting pumped up, Marty knows I love this scene, when they're getting pumped up to go into the jungle to kill all the bad guys and to, at that time, rescue the good guys, they're listening to the unmanliest man of the world, Little Richard. That is fucking fun. You know what I mean? That 180 is great. They're not listening to hair metal. They're not listening to heavy metal. They're not listening to hip hop. They're listening to Little Richard. You know what I mean? And that's smart writing.
And then it comes back later when Mac flips out.
He's
I'm gonna have me some fun. I'm gonna have me some fun. When he after the Predator. And I like that he just totally cracks. You know. Like I liked it how they're affected by each other's deaths because these guys think they can't be killed. They think they're invincible. And as soon as Hawkins eats it, they're just like, what the fuck? And then obviously
what ends up happening is that you lose. I mean, and we're sort of, I guess we could do this where we just jump all over the place, but
people have seen this.
It's been 35 years, but it's been you got Hawkins and Blaine. And they go out in 5 minutes. So when the deaths happen, they happen fast.
Yep.
you know, and so boom, and within 5 minutes, 2 people are fucking dead.
Yeah.
And then it goes, you know, towards the end where you get Max going, and then Dylan's gone a minute after that. Billy goes, so and then Pancho goes. So you know, it's like 6 of them. You know, like within 5 minutes, you got 2 over here, and then you got 4 over here that happened within like 3 minutes. So when the deaths start to occur, there's a lot of space in between, but then all of a sudden the table is just fucking wiped.
Well, and that's what I was saying with, like, I think a lot of people weren't expecting Jesse Ventura to go out so quick. Like, you know, he was like one of the top guys who was like Arnold, Carl Weathers, and Jesse Ventura. Like, nobody was expecting. That's like putting The Rock in this movie and killing him off like the second guy to be killed. And you're like, what the fuck? I think that was a good twist on it. You know, you thought Jesse was probably maybe going to almost make it to the end, but then it's like, nope, he's the second one.
And see, that's smart because the first guy taken out is Hawkins, Shane Black, who is one of the smaller guys. Who's the last one to die? Is Pancho, who's even smaller than him. So he takes out the muscle man in between those two guys. So no one's safe, and you don't know when.
Yeah, and it's funny because I hadn't heard of like Sonny Landham or Richard Chavez or Shane Black at the time. Like, I knew the other guys from the movies. Right. I mean, Bill Duke was in every movie, but you know, and obviously I knew Carl Weathers and, you know, the other guys, but the other 3 I had never heard of before that movie, you know, but they were all awesome. I mean,
it's an interesting setup. I mean, the premise of the movie is a one-day operation to rescue these politicians, like ministers, cabinet ministers. But it turns out to be a lie because they're actually CIA. And what a lot of people forget is that this was right towards the end of the Cold War. And the vast majority of the Cold War in the Western Hemisphere was being fought in Latin America, which was, I mean, that's, I guess I'm the oldest one here. That was a dirty, ugly place, you know, where the Soviet Union was down there. The United States and the Western powers were down. Well, that was Nicaragua, but there was El Salvador, there was Venezuela, there was Chile. You know, there were so many different battlefronts. There was Honduras, there was Guatemala. There were so many of these places where these fucking hot wars were just taken off. And, you know, these small little battles, and they were just awful atrocities on both sides. And so it was an action movie, but it was taking place, you know, as kind of relevant, you know, oh shit, you know, we're down there fighting the Russians because that's actually what was happening. And so, you know, the Russians were trying to recruit the locals. We were trying to recruit the locals. And so there were these civil wars that were just going on in all these different countries. And all these poor people were just in the middle, just getting chewed the fuck up. And so that literally was probably at the time the hottest place on earth in terms of looking for combat. And so, why wouldn't the Predator go there?
Yeah.
You know?
But it was just the stuff that they came up with for the Predator was awesome too. Just like the heat vision and the, you know, all his little tech that he had, like the laser, like that shit was just so cool. And that big blade, the blades that came out of his gauntlet and stuff, it was just really cool. I think that's one of the first movies that used like heat vision or something that I remember.
And he had infrared.
That's what I mean.
Spectrum, you know, you could see him. And so, I mean, there's a lot going on throughout the course of the movie because I think Hawkins doesn't die till about 40 minutes in.
Right.
No,
because I actually watched this. I watched this today.
Yeah.
But there are these little hints that somebody's watching them throughout the entirety of the movie. So here, you know, you see, you know, they're being watched, you know, and, you know, they're coming up on this different sort of, you know, scanner or, you know, presence, you know, the way that the Predator is reading them here and there, but it's not making its presence known. And so I remember specifically about 5 years after this came out, I was living in this house with some friends of mine, and a friend of mine was watching it for the first time. And I sort of got to see it through his eyes, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? He didn't know what the movie was about at all.
Okay.
And he's like, what the fuck is going on here?
I'm wondering, did he see the start with the spaceship? Because I'd love to introduce this movie and not show the opening.
I think he was really high at the time, so he wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
So he was just like, what the fuck is going on? He's like, what is that? He goes, why are we? Because it starts off like, just like you guys said, like an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're just like, okay, you know, it's a fucking Arnold, you know, shoot 'em up commando action movie.
Oh,
It's
big time.
Commando
big
Part
time.
2. But it's not.
Because like you said, you know, Hawkins isn't killed till 40 minutes in. Everyone else has fucking died, you know, that's not part of that commando unit. I want to take an actual death count one of these days to see how many people that commando unit has killed. And what I love about this, it's like I said, we've talked about the, you know, the manliness, the macho-ness, the action. You know, when it's not like The Hunt. It's just overkill, and it's what I love is it's pure 80s. You know,
it's wonderful. Yes,
Arnold doesn't just blow up something; he lifts the back of a truck up that's generating the power to the village, and he rolls it down the hill. And even Jesse Ventura says, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
they blow it up, and then you know it's always one-upsmanship. You know, this guy's killing this guy, this guy's killing this. So Jesse Ventura brings out old painless, which is the goddamn minigun. You know what I mean?
Minigun.
And you have the lines. You have like it's not as Arnold air quotes like as Commando or Running Man, but he says, you know, stick around when he stabs a guy and knock and stuff like that.
You got Poncho with the grenade launcher and
I ain't got time.
Carl Weathers takes out the helicopter pilot. And comes up next to him and fires the underslung grenade launcher into the helicopter, which is of no threat to them, which is of no bother to them. But he's like, fuck this. Bang.
It's one-upsmanship is what it is. You know, Carl Weathers shot them. They're already dead. And Arnold's like, fuck you. I'm going to blow up the helicopter.
Nobody's getting away.
Exactly.
It's wonderful, gratuitous 80s violence. I mean, you can't get away with that stuff now. I mean, it's
not just 80s violence. It's the absolute best.
Exactly.
80s violence.
Exactly.
I mean, look at that picture you have right there. That is perfect of Jesse right there with his minigun, but you have the fucking jungle on fire behind him. You know what I mean? And he's chewing tobacco while he's doing this. He literally, he's chewing it. He takes a spit and then he blows these dudes away. You know what I mean? And what I love is, like you mentioned Carl Weathers and, you know, Arnold, like Marty mentioned, you know, the guys get shot and then Arnold blows it up. It's an ongoing competition with Carl Weathers because he's the company man. He's now, he was a part of Arnold's group. Now he's an outsider because, again, it's a gift that everyone fucking uses in text messages and stuff, you know, when they reunite and they do that, you know, that high five in the air.
Yeah.
And of course, we're focusing on the biceps of these two men. And Carl Weathers is going to get his arm ripped out of the socket, but he won't give up.
Yeah.
And then he finally does. And then I mentioned this to Marty, you know what I mean? Eventually they get to the point where I don't know how many people, I think maybe 2 people have been killed by now, and they realize they have to set the booby traps. And everyone, even little Anna, is doing her part. You know what I mean? Setting up the booby traps. And Carl Weathers, he's just like, is this going to fucking work or not? I think you're wasting your time. And Arnold looks at him, he's like, well, you know, maybe you should quit your bitching and start helping. And then, like I said, it's a competition because I mentioned it to Marty. If you notice, first time we see Carl Weathers helping, he's the only motherfucker without a shirt on.
He's got his shirt off.
To these dudes. You know what I mean? So that's what's great. It's this ongoing shut the fuck up between Dutch and Dylan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You're not used to seeing Carl Weathers play the anti-hero.
No.
Because he does some underhand, like he lies. I mean, the whole military sort of lies to Arnold about why they're going in there. You know, because it would be just as easy to say, look, you know, the CIA is, you know, fucking trapped in there, and we got to get our people out of there. But they lie to him and say that it's something else. And then when the truth is revealed, Carl Weathers is like, yeah, fuck you, I lied to you. You know, it's my fucking job. I outrank you. I can tell you what the fuck I want you to do, and you're gonna fucking do it.
Yeah, he says, what do you say? He says, I woke up. When are you going to? Or something
you're an
like that.
expendable asset, and I used you to get the job done. Got it?
Exactly.
And these were friends.
Yeah, and you're not used to seeing Carl Weathers in that role. You know, he's kind of the lovable, you know, Apollo Creed guy, you know, and then he's tragic, you know, because he gets killed by Drago. But here, you know, he's kind of a son of a bitch. You know?
And I think that carries over real quick into his character in The Mandalorian. He's kind of like that. He's kind of an anti-hero. you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
you know, because when I said like Carl Weathers is in Star Wars, but then it's like, okay, yeah, he's a shady guy, you know,
Yeah.
he's got
living
he's
on the
not
outpost of
level.
town. Yeah,
Yeah.
And the thing is, he knew that he was, until he revealed everything, until everything was fine. He was always an outsider to everybody but Dutch. Dutch let him in because Jesse Ventura disrespects him. He spits the tobacco juice on his foot, and he just gives him that sneer. But what I like about Carl or Dylan, whatever, he's not intimidated because he doesn't say "fuck you" or whatever. He looks at Blaine and he goes, like, you know, your kid just fucked up. Come here. You know, he wags his finger and then he just says, "That's a real nasty habit you got."
Yeah.
But he's still an outsider because before everything's blown to shit, he accidentally trips over that log and he gives up their position. And then who does he turn to? Favorite of mine and Mike's, Bill fucking Duke. And Duke, again, scariest dude I've ever seen on film. And what I love about Duke is he threatens a man in a whisper and you believe it. He says, "You give up he says, you're ghosting us. You give up our position one more time, I'll bleed you, leave you here real quiet." Got that?
Yeah.
And you
You don't
believed
want to
him.
mess
And
with a
you
man who dry shaves himself in the middle of the fucking jungle.
exactly.
Okay?
No. Bill Duke, an extremely underrated asset. I think, you know, one of the great underrated actors in Hollywood.
He's a great character actor.
Ryan and I had a great time watching him in Payback. You know, where he plays the corrupt cop. I think somehow he came up in last week's conversation. He's great to watch in everything that he does. And it's one of those things where when he is on the screen, he sort of steals the scenes. You know, when Blaine gets killed and Arnold tells him he was a good soldier, he just says he was my friend. You know, which puts it in a completely different context. You know, that when a guy says that you're his friend, you know, it's a serious thing.
And that is a testament to how good Bill is, because lots of us are going to say our favorite character is Dutch, Arnold, or Blaine, Jesse Ventura, the cool guys, air quote. I told Marty, I said, my favorite in this entire film, and even over Dutch, over Arnie, is Mac, Bill Duke, because he gives his character something more. He's not just a dude that would stab you in the jungle and leave you. That he was my friend scene, that line, that gave you enough right as it is, that he is a man with a heart. You know what I mean? That's more than just being a badass. But one of my favorite scenes in the entire fucking movie is when he's talking to Blaine in the heavens. You know what I mean? And that's great acting. You know, he's like giving it's like a Shakespeare soliloquy. You know what I mean? He's talking about how Blaine, remember we were in the shit and we came out there as just the two of us and we didn't have a fucking scratch on us. And then he goes to being, you know, peaceful, and then he's like, I'm gonna find this guy and I'm gonna cut your name into him. And you believe it because of the way Bill Duke does it, and he's not yelling, he's not screaming. And again, it also is how good McTiernan is. Because Bill Duke's skin is immensely dark, but he looks beautiful in that fucking moonlight. The way it's shown on him, you know, it's like a mixture of black and like a light blue and stuff like that. And he's got the beads of sweat. This dude's in the fucking shittiest of shitty jungles, and he looks beautiful in that scene, especially with the context. It just shows how good McTiernan is too. But that's why Mac is my favorite character, hands down, because he gives this character depth, heart, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? He's not just the guy that will blow everything up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think Mac is, of all the guys outside of Dylan and Dutch, he's the most well-rounded, you know, the most well-written, and that's Bill Duke too. And you know, believe it or not, I'm always sad when he dies, because it's like you're not, you know, they're all going to die, but you're kind of like, oh, Mac has to die now, you know, after Dylan gets killed, and then you see, or no, that's right before Dylan. He gets killed before Dylan. But like after all that, you know, his friend dying, and you feel bad for him, and then you're like, oh man, Mac died now. Like when he sees that red light beam on his head, and you know that's it. And Predator's standing right over him, and just bam. And he's a great, well-rounded, well-written, well-acted character. I mean, of all of them, I think, you know, all the supporting guys, you know,
there are so many great shots. There's so many great visuals in this movie.
Yeah.
What Eric's talking about with Mac in the moonlight, doing his monologue. This idea of I'm trying to think of some of the shots in the jungle. Where he gets killed. It's just there are so many things about this movie that work.
Mm-hmm.
And all of it's working all the time.
Yeah.
There's a great scene that I love, that when Hawkins first gets killed, you see the men running towards the scream because they hear the scream, and everybody, if you hear someone get hurt, they scream a different kind of way. It's a different thing than someone
a painful
who's
scream.
And when that happens, I worked once in a shop where a guy lost a finger, and everybody just stopped with it. Everybody just knew someone's fucking hurt, and everybody came running. And there's this scene where the men are running, and you see Carl Weathers, Dylan, he's running, and then all of a sudden the shot changes from like mid-level to, it seems like the cameraman almost lays on the ground as Dylan sort of leaps over the camera shot. He goes like airborne. I fucking love that shot. Just before they reach fucking Anna. Because they never get Hawkins again.
Right.
They never get the body again.
Yeah.
But just when he makes that one leap and he grabs her and she's crawling, but right before that, you just see him go airborne like those old OJ commercials.
Yeah.
Where it's like it fucking hurts. And I saw this today before we went on. I actually watched it again, and I'm like, fuck, there's some great shots in this. The shot where he sparks the torch at the end to call the predator.
Yeah.
Where he's just covered in all the fucking mud. Yeah, I mean, but not even just that, but I mean, just that fucking shot. Against the moonlight.
When he's walking down with the spear.
Yeah, he's hunting.
He's hunting. That's a fantastic shot of McTiernan going backwards as Arnold is just it's primal, getting ready to go crazy.
The shot where they lay the fucking booby trap out, and Arnold goes to test the booby trap.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, and he's like, fuck, this is a fucking flop. And then the fucking trap just launches right next to him. It had been standing there the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
And like I remember in the theater watching that, and the whole fucking place just jumped like, oh shit.
One of my favorite scenes is when I think it's after Blaine gets killed and Max sees the predator and shoots it, and all the guys just unload on the jungle for like 5 minutes. They use it, just the panic is great, where they panic and confusion. They don't know what the hell just happened, who killed Hawkins and Blaine, but they're all caught up in the moment. And because Mac is unloading with the minigun, and they just deforest like acres and acres of, they're blowing shit up. They're going crazy, wasting all their ammo on, and they didn't hit any. I mean, I think they clipped the predator a little bit, but of all that, it's a great scene because they're just, you can see the look on their faces. They're kind of just following each other. They don't know what they're doing, and
they're just supporting Mac. They're just supporting Mac.
And you have
decimating the jungle.
You have that classic sound of Mac. He's still got his hand on the trigger of the minigun. It's not firing, and it's close-ups on Mac. He's out of breath.
Yeah,
trying to shoot a bulletless minigun, and then suddenly he just takes his finger off.
The cool thing about that scene was that was foreshadowed, because remember when Billy finds the remnants of Hopper's team and he says, "Oh, they were shooting in every direction." What were they shooting at? They didn't know, and it's like this is exactly what happened to the prior team. And
Hold on a second. We got a couple comments here. We got DMC in the house tonight. What's up there, man?
Hey, DMC.
Saying good evening, everybody. We got Slasher Fred. Thanks for stopping in again. I think that what makes this movie so great is that at the beginning, you think you're watching a movie where some army commandos set out to rescue some more commandos. But then it becomes a horror movie. And it's probably one of the greatest sci-fi horror movies ever. What are you going to use next? Cheese? Yeah, exactly.
You mean you're trying to say Hawkins and Blaines were killed by some fucking lizard?
Lizard?
Yeah, just,
Yeah. There's a couple
Fucking
of guys
lizard.
out there cutting people with fucking lizard. Yeah.
Fucking lizard.
I tell you, and I think
He's
I
losing.
like,
Man's losing is cool.
I like Poncho's character too.
Mhm.
They're all good. They all have their moments. Poncho, and like you were saying before, Poncho he can hold his own against like the bigger guys, you know?
Yeah.
And he gets, I feel bad when that big log trap hits him in the chest and he's like disabled for the rest of the movie.
There's a film that they did recently. Bill and I talked about it when we did the Monsterverse called Kong Skull Island. And if you've seen it, it's a fucking fantastic movie.
Loved it.
Set in the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not Saving Private Ryan. But there's enough investment in the soldiers that are led by Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel Jackson's in the King Kong movie that you actually give a shit about them.
Yep.
Like, and that's what's great about this movie. It's the same thing with that movie. Everybody has something to do.
Yeah.
Like you could easily put 6 or 7 guys in the jungle together and then only give 3 people something to do or 4 people something to do. And then but you lose 2 and you're like, well, who the fuck were they? They're like the red shirts in Star Trek. Here, everybody contributes enough that you invest in their characters just enough that you see them all as a cohesive unit. So that when each individual person, even Hawkins, sort of gets it, you're like, fuck, how the fuck did that happen? And that's a testament to lean minimalist writing. Because there are lots of movies out there where I see this fucking person why is she or him or her in there? They have absolutely nothing to do, like the entire movie, and this avoids that pitfall. Kudos to the writer. I don't know the writer's name off the top of my head.
It was 2 guys. It was Jim Thomas and John Thomas.
The Thomas brothers wrote it, and
kudos to them.
Black was originally brought in to redo the script, and they brought in that we don't need you, but we can put you in a movie if you want. Okay. I think the only non-selling point with me is those big ass spectacles of his.
Well, and of course Shane Black, went on to be a director and screenwriter. He did Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, and apparently in Lethal Weapon 2, he intended Riggs to die at the end on the boat, but the movie companies wanted wanted sequels, so he walked away from it.
Good for him.
Said, he walked away from it.
I wish he had walked away from the Predator, but all right.
There's one thing go ahead, Ryan. Finish your thought.
No. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is I want to piggyback on like what Mike just said. Minimalistic writing. Well, one thing, minimalistic writing is Marty. You and I talked about like 2 of our favorite lines in this is between Billy and Poncho. Billy's. What's got Billy so spooked? Billy. You don't want to fuck with Billy. He's a man of few words. Hawkins is lucky he was able to get him to laugh with that second pussy joke. You know what I mean? But he's just Sonny Landham's just intimidating to look at. You piss your pants, just him looking at you.
Yeah.
But he knows something's up, and he says something. I'm going to paraphrase Marty. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's like, "There's something out there." He says, what? I'm scared, Major. And then Poncho looks at him. He's like, "Bullshit. You ain't afraid of no man."
Yeah.
And he says, "It's not a man that's out there hunting us. We're all going to die." Minimal lines, great delivery, and you believe it. If a man like Sonny Landham is terrified of what's in this, we already saw him scared before when he found Hopper's men, but he knows they're being hunted. If he is afraid, you know that these guys are screwed.
Fun fact about Sonny Landham: they had to have a bodyguard on the set of the movie, not to protect Landham, but to protect other people from Landham.
Oh, really?
Apparently he was like 3rd generation Native American, and he had issues with alcohol, and he was easily provoked.
Oh,
yes.
So if you said something to him or looked at him the wrong way, he would beat the ever living shit out of you. So they actually have to have a bodyguard.
He been
break up fights.
I don't know if it was before or after this. He was also in 48 Hours, which he got in trouble with fights behind the scenes and stuff like that, and that's why they had the whole bodyguard stuff.
He had a very small part in Action Jackson, which Bill Duke was also in.
Yeah, that was a mini kind of Predator reunion, that movie.
He was in, and didn't he become a politician?
I don't know if he was successful. I know he ran for office.
Yeah.
He did. Ryan's right, Eric. He did run for office. You are right. He ran, but he kind of got the idea from Schwarzenegger and Ventura. But when he was brought on to do a debate, he said, "I would make sure none of those ragheads would be allowed into the country," which totally undermined his campaign.
But he's what I like about Billy though is I honestly think Billy would have made it, or at least been the last one if he hadn't have sacrificed himself. I think he had the stamina and he had the strength to. I think if things had gone differently, it would have been him and Dutch at the end. Because I think of all of them, he was the competent one. He was the scout. He kind of knew the land and that kind of stuff. And I think he would have squared off well against Predator. But he sacrificed himself, which I thought, and that was a good scene. I love his face on that scene, his expression when he just takes his shirt off, he drops all his stuff in the water, and he has that big old machete, and he rips that thing off his neck, and he just cuts himself.
Yeah.
Come and get me, and his eyes, his face, just like crazy. Like, come on, yeah, that's.
And he dies pretty quick.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
Predator gets him quick and then rips his spine out, which is nasty. But that's a good scene. But that was cool, and that was different. That the Predator was hunting these guys for trophies, because it was just sport. Like I said, with the whole most dangerous game connection, it was a sport. He was just hunting. That's why he didn't hunt the girl. He didn't hunt Anna because she didn't have a weapon. She wasn't a fighter, a warrior.
That's why Arnold tells her not to pick it up.
Yeah. And then after Pancho is killed, she picks it up. See, I think Anna is like an unsung hero in this. She gets forgotten in this group of men. She is competently written. She's soft-spoken, but she's super fucking smart. She gives the little bit of backstory that we need, because she talks about, I don't know if it's actually her village in general, but the story about, men were found without skins, and it's always when it's very hot, and this year it grows very, very hot. She's very soft-spoken. I love her performance, and I love by the end of it, like I said, she's fucking helping the guys before Dylan gets off his ass.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But I love how in the very end, she's been in this long enough, she doesn't show any fear. Pancho's killed. She picks up the gun, tells Arnold to run, and she points it right at the Predator. And she, Arnold kicks it out of her hand. But I love how even till the very end, she is no longer afraid, or she respects Dutch enough to sacrifice herself to get him out. She's a great character that I honestly think she's forgotten about because of everyone else in this film.
Yeah, you're right. She does kind of get lost in the shuffle, and you're like, oh wait, that's right, she's there.
She's so fucking good.
But I don't know if you guys know this about Dutch. Apparently, Dutch was supposed to appear in Predator 2. He was the Gary Busey part, and Arnold obviously didn't want to do it, so they rewrote the character for Gary Busey's crazy part. But Dutch is mentioned in the novelization of Predator 2, in the tie-in novel. And they say something about he was in like a mental hospital or something. He was under like lockdown with the government and all this kind of stuff like that.
He had radiation poisoning, Ryan. He suffered
that's right.
Poisoning from the blast.
The
original plan was that he was going to be an advisor, and they're like, no, we won't bring him back as an advisor. We want a bigger role. We'll have him back as Dutch's twin brother, which was fucking Days of Our Lives kind of horseshit.
Oh gosh!
So they scrapped that. It found its way into the comic. He was going to be Rash Schaefer, but they mix it up. But there is a deleted scene out there where Anna is interviewed. Anna is like,
she's in it like on a camera or something.
Yeah. But there was a scene where she's interviewed talking to Gary Busey's character about the Predator. But
One of the other things I think that doesn't get enough credit about this movie is the fucking score.
Alan Silvestri,
I mean, it's just
yeah,
it's militaristic.
yeah.
It really doesn't ever. It's a horror movie, but it doesn't delve into sort of the traditional horror kind of thing. It keeps you, but it's got great suspense.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those.
It's one of the. I mean, you hear that now. Anybody who worth their salt hears that. They know exactly what it.
Well, and that's
where it's
what I
coming
was going
from.
to say. This is one of those movies where the music is a character.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Star Wars, all the Star Wars movies, the music is a character all its own. This movie, there's very few movies that are like that where the music stands out. Jaws, the music is a character. Is Superman, the music is a character, oddly enough, and coincidentally, that's all John Williams, who's brilliant. But Alan Silvestri's score in this movie is awesome, and I think he gets overlooked a lot.
He had just gotten off of Back to the Future.
Okay.
So I mean, if you're looking at polar opposites, I mean, you're talking about range.
He also did Die Hard, didn't he? I think he did the music.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember who did the music for that.
The other thing is, it's as Brian said, it's militaristic, but it isn't like super hyper macho militaristic.
No.
For example, what Silvestri done was he took the tune for the 1970s Olympics, Fanfare for the Fellow Man, and converted it into Fanfare for a Fallen Mercenary, which is the tune that's playing when Mac is kind of giving his soliloquy. That kind of somber kind of.
That's
trumpets. Yeah, you got trumpets.
That's cool.
Yeah, fantastic movie, man. Just a fantastic film.
Often imitated but never bettered.
And in my opinion, I know you guys are fans. This movie I appreciated because I thought it was sort of a love letter to the original.
I love that.
It's okay. It's okay.
But it's sort of up there with The Matrix in the sense that, like, as the saying goes, one movie doesn't make a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here we are 35 years later. My hopes are up for next week. My hopes are not up, but at this point, the only thing that surprises me are pleasant surprises. So it would be nice. It would be nice if we got a good Predator movie.
I don't know if this movie needed to be a franchise. Like, it was cool enough to stand on its own. Because, again, once you go down that dark path, how many times are you going to see the Predator kill somebody? I mean, we know the story. Like, we know Predator comes, kills a bunch of people, and then ends up dying at the end.
It's the same with Terminator. I mean, the original idea for Terminator was that Cameron had an idea for 2 movies that were vehicles basically for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm.
And every movie, that's gone on afterwards. And I like the third one. I own the third one. I like Nick Stahl. I like Claire Danes. But every movie consistently after the second movie has just been diminishing returns. And then you finally got to that dark fate, and you're like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Man?
And then when like Predator 2 came out, and people were like, "Danny Glover's the main guy." You're like, what's going on?
I love Danny Glover. I think he's
love him
5-star, even a 7-star fucking actor. And I mean like an actor, like Fences. Like real fucking acting. Not. But he reminded me of Orlando Bloom in Kingdom of Heaven. He just looked like he kept looking for the star, like he kept looking for Riggs to show up and like help him out. In this movie, and I'm like, no, this is it wasn't cast correctly.
It was. I think it was
to me.
Yeah, it was.
Me and Marty are big defenders of Predator 2. I mean, shit, we talked like an hour and a half on his channel once on how much we enjoyed it. Excuse me. And the thing is, I think the main problem is it's following up Predator. It had it didn't just have big shoes to fill. It had fucking clown-sized shoes to fill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These characters are different in the second one, but I liked them because they still had that camaraderie. Danny Glover, he couldn't be Dutch. He had to be different. It was nice seeing him actually take action and not be second fiddle to Mel Gibson. So, it was different. But that's, and again, Bill Paxton, we always loved him. He's annoying, but eventually that respect that Danny gives him, you're now part of the team. The annoyance, the cockiness mellows a little bit and he becomes part of the team. I loved how it was in a new setting. We all wanted to see, at least at that time, if there was going to be a sequel, it would have been cool to see it in the city. It's a different playing ground, different hunting ground. So I think there's a lot of good in Predator 2. I just think it, like I said, its detriment is it followed Predator. And it's hard to follow something as fantastic as Predator.
And I mean, I love Bill Paxton. I mean, he was so great in all those movies. And you always felt bad when he died. His character, like in Aliens and in
doesn't he get it on the bus or something?
Yeah.
Subway train.
Gets it on the bus.
Yeah,
the train.
In Tombstone.
That stupid King Willie.
He was in.
I love me some King Willie.
Oh, Jesus.
King Willie.
Fucking King Willie.
I tell you what I believe. Shit happened.
But when Bill Paxton and
he's just hanging out in the alley, you're like, what the fuck are you doing in this alley?
That's what he does. That's just what he does.
You're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Can't be stopped. No killing what can't be killed. Yeah.
When you're as scary as King Willie, if you want to hang out in just one random alley in Los Angeles, you can.
What was his moniker again? The Cocaine King of LA.
Yeah.
So like no one was going to fuck with him. So he could
just hang out in an alley. Yeah,
He could meet Harrigan in the toilet of a gay bar, and no one would say shit to him. Like
exactly.
He's on the third. He's over there in the third stall. Fuck it.
I really didn't understand his character, but it was just funny because you see Predator walk up to him and he goes and then he walks away with his head. He's got the head.
I
think that was like to me it was like a callback from the Billy. You think it's going to be this badass fight. Willie, he crouches down, he pulls that katana out of his walking stick, and then he's gone. He's a goner.
This is a perfect example of Sturgeon's law.
Here we go.
Where 9 out of 10 things just kind of suck. And so that follows by continuation that 9 out of 10 sequels are just kind of going to suck. So every once in a while you get an Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while you get a Terminator 2. Every once in a while you get an Aliens. But that's not everything that is 9 out of 10 is like an automatic 0. I mean, you get 5s and 6s and whatever. Yeah. But I mean, it's rare. Like you said Aliens, and I just thought, fuck, I haven't watched Aliens in like years. Like even after the show's over, like I'm off tomorrow. I'm thinking, fuck, I could just sit down and just watch some Aliens tonight. That'd be fucking great. It's rare that you get those.
Mm-hmm.
But even
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I will say Predator 2 had some cool deaths. Gary Busey has a cool death in that movie.
Isn't he fighting with a fire extinguisher or something like that?
No, it's like that frisbee blade
nitrogen.
thing.
He's using a nitrogen gun to try and freeze us.
Okay, I remember there's a fire extinguisher.
Yeah. And he like cuts through him with that frisbee blade thing.
Of course he does. Yes.
But see, in the first movie, the deaths were painful. You could feel it, like when they turned Jesse Ventura, when they turned Blaine over, and his whole just sternum is his ribs are all blend. You're just like, oh my gosh, like because he gets like shot in the back, but then his like whole front gets ripped out.
What about the Jamaican guy that gets caught in the fucking razor net?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That doesn't look comfortable.
I don't remember that, but I remember King Willie. But
I got a question for you, Marty, because you're the Predator expert. Like Ryan just brought up Blaine getting his chest blown out. What the hell hits him in the face right before that? He has a bunch of blood thrown on him. I never understood that.
Originally, the weapon when it was in Power Ranger cockroach form, whatever the fuck it was supposed to be a kind of spear or a flechette.
Okay.
And it was supposed to hit him in the fucking neck and like suck out all his fucking blood, right? But then we're like, okay, this isn't working VFX wise, this isn't working. So when they done the redesign, they brought in the plasma caster and they used the kind of shot to cover what the fucking flechette was.
Okay.
I thought it was supposed to be like Hawkins' blood or something that the Predator like sprayed on her, and it just because it's weird. It like hits him, and then he kind of has that weird look on his face, Blaine, and he's looking around, and then all of a sudden it. The laser hits him in the back. That was always so weird. Yeah, that random like spray
like
of
a
blood.
1-2 punch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, I mean, it's just a solid fucking flick.
Yeah, man.
It is a difficult movie to follow up on. I think what makes this superior, one, you've just got a superior cast.
Oh yeah,
you've got a superior cast, and you've got a superior script.
Yeah.
If you're going to follow up with a sequel to a blockbuster like that, you gotta have somebody. Otherwise, you can make one, but you've gotta have someone to just write you a fuck all of a story.
Yeah.
And that's where the second one really kind of falls off. There's nothing wrong with having it set in LA or this, that, or the other.
Now,
but you need those pieces to come together. Otherwise, it's just going to be,
Yeah. Now, who directed Predator 2?
Stephen Hopkins.
Yeah.
He directed. He done The Ghost in the Darkness.
Oh, okay.
And he done a Friday the 13th movie.
He did the fifth Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and
okay.
And that's actually what got him the job, because he was able to. Yeah, I know.
That got him the job.
Yeah, well, it's because
got him the job.
It makes sense in your mind when I explain it. It got him the job because he was able to crank out that movie in less than 30 days. So
I see. Yeah, he worked fast.
This guy can make a Freddy movie in less than 30 days. Let's give him Predator 2.
So what? And I'm wondering what happened.
And look at Mike's face says it all. But Nightmare on Elm Street 5, the Dream Child, got him the job.
That would elicit the exact opposite response from me.
And what? I haven't seen anything from.
Get the hell out of my office.
But he also did The Ghost in the Darkness. So
yeah, and that's a cool movie.
Oh,
we've got a new movie coming out with Lost in Space.
Yeah, he did do the Lost in Space movie, Mike, and you like that one.
Yeah, that's not bad. We've got a new Lion movie coming out in
August
with Idris Elba. Idris Elba's punching a lion right in the face. That's going to be interesting.
Idris Elba and Charlton Copley from District 9.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's called Beast. No, I was going to say, what happened to McTiernan? I haven't seen anything from him.
I know he went to prison.
Yeah, didn't he?
Something to do with
the taxes?
Yeah, he was supposed to pay his wife a load of fucking alimony or some shit.
I heard something. It was.
I thought it was something like
he spying on somebody.
Yeah, I thought he actually got in trouble for like bugging something or something. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. I'll look it up really quick.
Because I haven't seen any movies from him in a long, I think since Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Well, Jesus, man, he's got to be 90.
Yeah.
Fun fact, guys. This takes place in the same universe as Die Hard and Commando, because they go to the fictional South American country of Valverde, which is where Franco Nero's dictator comes from in Die Hard 2, and it's also where Matrix.
Oh, I forgot Franco Nero's in that. I always forget that he's in that.
Yeah, I know.
Franco Nero.
Well, Franco Nero is overshadowed by John Amos and William Sadler. So
Sadler, yeah.
Okay, it says McTiernan was charged in federal court in 2006 with making a false statement to an FBI investigator about his hiring the private eye to illegally wiretap the producer of his film Rollerball.
Rollerball!
He went to prison for Rollerball.
Whoa,
that's depressing.
I'm not saying he shouldn't go to prison for Rollerball, just not for fucking spying on somebody.
McTiernan had been in a disagreement about the type of film Rollerball should be, and hired the PI to investigate the intentions and actions. I don't see how long he was in prison for. He was incarcerated in federal prison from April 2013 to February 2014. During his imprisonment, he filed for bankruptcy amidst foreclosure proceedings for his large ranch residence. All for fucking Rollerball.
I think maybe it was you or maybe it was Bill, Eric, that I was talking to about this. I saw this this YouTube video. I think it was Vanity Fair. Like, I never fucking watch Vanity Fair, but they had David Duchovny on there. And he was doing like a career retrospective from like David Lynch's Twin Peaks. He goes all the way from Twin Peaks all the way to like this new show that he's doing now. And he was saying that in Hollywood, he said it's like the insecurity that everyone experiences there. He said it's like a disease. And he said he said he had it too. You know, he wasn't like putting himself outside the box. He goes, but yeah, it's just because
Jeez.
it's unbelievable, the insecurity that people had. And we've talked about this many times, the need to fill that hole, that these artists have inside themselves. And I guess it leads people to fucking wiretap people over fucking rollerball.
I never saw rollerball.
Nor should you.
I saw the original with James Caan.
I'll avoid that one.
Yeah, that's a good fucking movie. Yeah, with James Caan. I gotta watch.
Oh, the original. Oh, yeah.
No, yeah, the one with
Mike, but all I'm gonna say is about your trepidation with Prey, right? As bad as it might be, if it is bad, it probably won't be. At least it won't be the Predator coming down abducting our fucking autistic children. Okay? Can we all agree that if that so long? That was the last movie. That's what happened in the last movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that piece of shit where like he mails the alien thing through the postal mail.
Yep.
Wait, what was this? What are you talking about?
In the age
the
of
last
terrorism.
Predator movie, yeah.
Wait, the one with Danny Trejo?
No, there was one after that.
There was one after that?
The Predator.
Yeah.
The Predator.
The Predator.
Because
that's original.
They're not
The
coming
Predator.
down to hunt us for trophies. They want the best and the brightest of our autistic children so they can engineer themselves to be better predators.
Oh my
I'm not
gosh.
making
He's not making it up. You find out that the predators are genetically enhancing themselves. They're taking the best of this creature, the best of this creature. So they come to Earth, and they're you think they're after the lead character. They're actually after his son, who is autistic, because that is the next stage in evolution.
See, I said it before. Every franchise at some point hits a wall. I mean, that's got to be the wall for Predator right there.
You know what? Every once in a while, you'll get a franchise that actually takes it in the opposite direction. Yeah, I know. It's just a fucking it's a crime. But
Ryan, it could have been worse. It could have been much worse, right?
It could have.
The movie ends, okay, where like the fucking Iron Man suit comes out. That wasn't the original ending. Do you know what came out of that fucking thing? Ripley.
Yeah.
Wait, Sigourney Weaver was in it?
No. She said fuck off. She said she's not doing that.
But the character
they had
Ripley.
Stunt double with a mask, and then you were like, okay, we can't get Ripley. Maybe we'll have an older Newt. And it's like,
was that a Matt Reeves movie?
No, it was Shane Black. Shane Black to
Shane Black. That's right. It was Shane Black.
Yeah,
Really? It was Shane Black?
Yeah, and everybody was real hopeful. They're like, fuck, well, Shane Black's in here, and he's going to do a fucking Predator movie.
Who's in that?
It's the guy from Narcos. And the guy
Who's
who
that?
played, you didn't see, you never watched Narcos on?
Have you ever, Ryan?
He was
Have you
Logan.
seen
He was
Logan?
on Logan.
He was in Logan?
He was the main villain in Logan, the one with the
that
robotic arm.
Caliban guy?
Yeah.
No, he was the villain.
Caliban.
Oh, okay.
The blonde.
I didn't see Logan yet.
But okay. Well, Thomas Jane's also in it. One of the guy who played Reek in Game of Thrones. He's in it.
Olivia Munn, Sterling K. Brown. Sterling K. Brown is one of the good fucking parts of that movie.
I like Sterling K. Brown.
He's good in it. Jake Busey shows up and he plays the son of Gary Busey's character.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that just sounds.
Oh yeah, that's right. Jake Busey's in that. Fuck. It just goes from bad to worse.
Marty.
It just sounds like so. Maybe with Prey, they're hoping to kind of get the fan base back, after that debacle. I don't know, but
my prediction, and I've said this from the get-go, is what's going to happen is that the Predator and the native heroine are going to be fighting the white colonials at the end. That is my prediction. It's going to go woke. They're going to decide that the white people are the real bad people, and that's how it's going to. That they're going to team up. There's going to be a team up at the end.
Predator's going to give her a gun at the end, like he does with Danny Glover.
It's entirely possible, and maybe she's they'll try to connect her to Billy or something like that.
That part I don't know.
That part I don't know. I do stand by what I said though, and I think they're going to end up fighting whoever the white traders are or whatever.
Wow.
I don't think so. If they're doing a course correction, because the biggest issue with the latter movies, and there's a lot of fucking issues with the latter movies. The thing I was saying to Eric is, for some reason, the latter movies, they tried turning the fucking Predator into an anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do it with this one. I'm fairly sure they've learned their lesson. So
I hope you're right. I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah,
and I've said this, like, a lot of people, there are woke movies. It's 2022. There's no denying people change races, they change genders. Look at Interview with the Vampire. You know what I mean? That series coming out. They do it to do it because it's the in thing to do. I've told this to Marty, and I don't think Prey is going to be woke just because we have a female lead and she's going to be the one taking. It looks like she's the main, I guess you would say, rival. I just think it came out at a time with so many woke movies. It's getting kind of drawn into that category.
You know what I mean? Mire
kind of lumped in.
That's how I'm looking at it because, Coriander, on the Nightwatch Zone, Jen, they have the Native American ancestry, and the women did more than just raise the babies and make the clothes. They did it too. So I personally think, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know what I mean? But I think it won't be woke. It's just kind of lumped in, that happening with 2022. You know what I mean?
We'll see. I mean, I hope that's the case.
I'm going with it because it's Disney. Hulu is Disney. So Disney will be the last.
Do we know if it's rated R?
Disney will burn into the ground.
I think it is rated R.
I think it is.
It is rated R.
It's on Hulu, isn't it?
I think it is.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah. It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu.
In the States.
Hulu is owned by Disney.
It's on Hulu in the States, and I have to watch it on Stars over here.
Okay. Oh, Stars. Okay.
Do you get it on the same day, Marty?
Yeah.
Friday.
And I think they're.
I'm just listening to comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're just releasing it on streaming, maybe because maybe they're cautious about putting it in the theater because they're afraid it won't do that well. I mean, people are kind of tired of Predator.
I don't think there's much of a market today for people spending $15 or $20.
Like, thank God they finally stopped with the Alien movies too. And then there were a couple times there were the Alien versus Predator movies, which just looked ridiculous. I didn't see any of them, but the AVP stuff. But I mean, it's just like I hope they don't decide to reboot Alien again or do anything like that. Speaking of which, Mike, what's happening with Ridley Scott's next Alien movie? Is he still doing that?
It's been put on ice.
Yeah.
We are getting a TV show that is set a year and a half. They're kind of doing they're doing stuff what they've done with the Kenobi and fucking stuff. So this is going to show the fall. This is I like this idea. This is going to show the fall of Hartley's Hope, the colony that Newt was part of. How like her father brought back the alien to the colony on his face. And how it fucking spread out and stuff like that. So I think that's interesting if it's done right.
Well, I mean, if you saw, Alien Covenant was just fucking awful.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it was.
I didn't see that one. I saw the one with. Which was
Prometheus.
The one we watched?
Prometheus,
yeah.
That was good.
I liked Prometheus. It had a lot of possibility.
That was
felt
decent,
flat. Yeah. You saw what he was trying to do was super ambitious. My understanding is that the suits made him sort of change a lot of things around. So we got what we ended up getting. Even Ridley Scott's not immune, I guess. And then they basically said, you're not doing this again. You're going to give us a fucking Alien movie, which is Covenant, which I own. I own Covenant on Blu-ray, but it's fucking awful. It's an awful movie.
One last thing I want to say about Prey is I hope it's successful because what I think would be cool, and me and Marty have talked about this, if it's successful, maybe it can open the doors to the Predator during different time periods. Also, like, let's just say, I don't know if it was Marty or someone else. What if a Predator is in like feudal Japan with the samurais?
Yeah, it was
something
us.
like that. Yeah.
What if he's in the French Revolution?
Let's see a Predator take on some fucking pirates. You know what I mean? Something like that.
That would be cool. Yeah.
It opens up the door of different possibilities where it doesn't always have to be in the fucking jungle against Macho Man and stuff like that. We can see these different things.
And it is feasible. I know I'm going a bit nerdy here, but like I love the comics, and they've done that. They've had the Predator turn up in the Battle of the Somme. They've had him turn up at the Battle of Antietam in one story, which is
nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Didn't
Predator even? Didn't Predator fight Batman at one point?
He fought
could-
Archie,
okay, okay, yeah, they're fun stories, but I'd never been like, no way, no fucking way. It's like,
Why not? Just throw for the next Batman movie. Just throw Predator in there. I mean, why not?
Well, Marty blew my mind. Like the comics have gone so off the rails. He's even debuted and killed Archie from the Riverdale comic. So he's been
saw that.
fucking
I was
everywhere.
like, why is Predator in Archie? Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
All right.
on that note,
Here's the thing. I've got a new thing that I do now on the show.
Okay.
Well, we did it last week. I'm going to ask for your rating on the movie. So 5 stars, half stars are available. So you can go anywhere from 0 to 5. I'm going to start round robin. Marty, 1987's Predator. What would you rate it? You can grade soft, you can grade easy. It's your grade. There's no wrong answer, obviously.
I'm going to give it 4.5 because just some of the effects, some of the visual effects don't hold up quite as much. Especially, I was talking to Eric about this, especially in the advent of Blu-ray and HD.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the digital effects don't hold up, but the practical effects are fucking A1. They look better than some of the stuff that we have today. So
it's amazing what you can do for $15 million. You don't need $30 million a fucking episode to deliver shit for per episode.
Yeah.
You don't need $500 million to make shit. You can take $15 million and make a great fucking movie if you give a fuck. Ryan.
5 stars for me, man. It's one of my best, one of my favorites. So I got it every time I see it. I'm not disappointed. Everything about it. I mean, the effects, but I mean, those little things, but I mean, it still holds up for me. It's one of those movies that just always holds up. That it will just always be entertaining, and that's it. I mean, like I said, it was in my top 4 or 5 for horror movies. So that's it at 5 across the board.
Okay. Eric, what do you got for us?
I'd be bullshitting you if I didn't give it a 5. My love for this movie. My love for this movie is just you can't measure it. I've loved it since I was a kid. Back in the 80s, parents didn't really give a shit what you watched as long as there was no sex involved. You know what I mean? There could be pussy jokes, but you can't actually have the actual pussy. I love this since then. I love the characters, and you grow to appreciate the stuff more as you become an adult. You look at movies differently. Mm-hmm. My views on this changed a lot since I was a kid, but it changed for the better because I can grow to love the characters more. I didn't give a shit about Max so much. He was just a cool black guy with a gun when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I can respect how he is as a character as an adult. I told you, Mike, I didn't have to watch this because I've seen it probably 1,000 times. But I love this movie. I love all the characters. The design of Stan Winston's fantastic in the look of the Predator. Like you said, the score is its own character. Everything about this, I think is fantastic. I got to give it a 5.
Okay. I'm coming in at 4. I'm going to give it a 4. I'd like to say 4.5, but I know what type of movies I probably would get 4.5 to.
Okay.
This falls short of that a little bit because then we start to get into like acting performances.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about that. This movie just isn't about that.
Right.
It still holds up 35 years later. They haven't been able to make a movie that, and you know me, I am very, stingy with praise and these sorts of things. They haven't made one that's equal to it yet. I'm, hopeful that it will. This, next Friday will be the case. One of the reasons I wanted to do this this week was because I could have in my mind a fresh template of what the original was, and then compare it. And I'm dismissing these others. I do love this movie. I think it's the one that's most worthy for the reasons that I said, and that it's got a great fucking cast. Walton Goggins, I think, steals every scene in that fucking movie.
He is funny, actually.
I love Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
Danny Trejo, again, like Jesse Ventura, you want to see him last longer, but he doesn't.
He's the first one who gets killed, I think.
Yeah, I think he might be the
Danny
first
is,
one
yeah.
that gets killed.
He's the cartel guy, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You've got a couple other guys. I like the guy who plays the Russian soldier. And I
Taktarov,
like
yeah.
Adrian
He was a
Brody.
UFC guy.
Yeah. Oleg Taktarov or something like that. It might be. I like Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody to me isn't necessarily an action man, but he does this well enough, where he comes off kind of just menacing. You know, he doesn't yell, and he's not jacked like Arnold or something, but he's got this quiet sort of acting that sort of makes up for it.
Who's the girl in that? The Israeli
Alisa Braga.
Yeah,
Alisa
she's
Braga.
good.
She was in.
Is she Sonia Braga's daughter?
Or City of Men, City of God.
The City of God. Yeah, the Brazilian, the street gang movie.
Yeah, I've only seen her in Predators, and she's in the latest Suicide Squad movie. She's the one starting the revolution.
And Elysium. Right. She was in Elysium as well. She's Matt Damon's love interest in Elysium.
Oh, that's right, Elysium. That's a fantastic movie.
You know, it's funny about Danny Trejo. I just read recently that his involvement in that movie was because in Predators was because the script called for somebody who looked like Danny Trejo or who was a Danny Trejo type. So he was like, all right, why don't I do it? He called him, was like,
Robert Rodriguez is involved. So he's like, why don't we just call up Danny?
Yeah. He was just like, yeah, I'll do it.
One of the other people I really liked in that movie was Topher Grace. And I thought it was an interesting twist because he just plays this comedic fucking fodder the entire movie. And then you find out at the end that he's just a homicidal he's one of those Dr. Death types. And I thought that was an interesting twist. So you had a great cast and a great story. But yeah, I'd give this a 4. It's a solid 4. No holds. I'm happy to watch this anytime. I just watched it today. So I'm going with 4. So we're between 4 and 5. All right. So there's no huge variance here. All right. Sounds good.
All right.
I think this is as good a place as any to bring this to a close. My thanks to. Was there anything that we missed that people wanted to mention? Did I overlook anything? Any points?
I don't think so. We talked about Anna, and that was the only thing I want to make sure she got her credit. But other than that, no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. My thanks to Marty from the Trash Picture Show, taking the time to come out here from Dublin, Ireland, and hang out and talk some fucking Predator. I always appreciate seeing you, man. We got to get it back going. We got to maybe a RoboCop or something. We got to try.
We got to get back on our Verhoeven kick.
I just got a new schedule. That's the problem, and now I've got to make some adjustments with that. The Ryan Daly, thanks for stopping in and talking some Predator. And then Eric from Hey Internet Eric here.
My pleasure, dude.
I'll tell you what, guys, while you're here, plug something. Marty, what do you got coming up? Anything? Anything you want to talk about?
Obviously, I'm going to be doing the review for Prey when it comes out on Friday, but I'm also going to be doing, in relation to Predator franchise, I'm going to be doing my top 5 Predators from the movies, the Yautja, each hunter. I'm going to be ranking them. Who's the best? And you may be surprised by who gets number 1. So.
Okay. Ryan, you got to get a channel sometime. You could, start making up some of your own content and material.
I talk to myself enough. That's, nobody wants to hear me talk. I talk to myself a lot about movies, but,
Gotcha. Son of a bitch, why is he doing that?
Ryan, if there's a balding Irish fucker who can talk about action figures and still get a fucking audience, you can get a channel, dude. So go for it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean those quirky, campy movies. They're people.
See, if I had the time, and I would actually. One of my favorite genres. Mike knows this because I've said it before on the show. One of my favorite genres is westerns, and I would love to do like a top 100 or top 50 or something like that, because there's so many good ones. I mean, there's a lot of crap ones, but there's so many good ones too. And I'm more into like the genre films, like the World War II stuff, and those kind of films and stuff like that. And that's why I like when we do when we break from the tradition on here and we cover certain movies like that aren't in the horror genre, so that fulfills my
right, Mike, what if we done a Peckinpah season at some stage?
Oh, that would be awesome.
Maybe. We'll see about it. My schedule just changed. I'm not necessarily opposed. We'll see.
Honestly,
we just did. Hold on a second, Brian. We just did a Western last week. Or the week
Hostiles.
Before. We just did Hostiles. With Christian Bale and Wes Studi and Stephen Lang. And it's just it's a phenomenal fucking thing. The purpose of what we had done for the summer was just to give everybody a break. Because I think everybody was getting a little burnout on weekly horror, and then people have their own shows where they're talking horror, and it's horror.
Yeah.
But then we come back in the fall. I think I've got some sci-fi lined up.
Yeah.
So, that's but cool. maybe when we come around, we can intersperse that with some westerns or some peck and paw. What I'd like to do
in here and there.
Well, what I'd like to do, I'd like to get into some classic fucking Japanese samurai films.
Okay.
I just got that Seven Samurai.
Yeah, I'm dying to get into some because samurai films are completely different from the run Shaw Chinese Wired, sort of movies. There are a couple of ones that they did. There was about a 10-year run between Crouching Tiger and about 10 years after that, where they were getting the Chinese movies perfect with great fucking stories. But there's just an endless variety of samurai flicks.
Oh yeah.
And I would just love to sit down and fucking talk samurai flicks, and obviously get back to horror too. Mm-hmm. But I want to spin things up a little bit because great movies are just great fucking movies, and those are the movies that I want to talk about. Yeah. So maybe we will get some back and forth. Eric, what do you got coming up? 47 meters, bow down.
Oh, well. One thing I will say,
47 meters.
It's gonna happen, damn it. One thing I will say though, Ryan, if you do ever decide to punch that ticket and do a channel, I will say this: no one's talking westerns on YouTube.
Yeah,
you would
figured,
be. But that's a good thing because then people who do like westerns and don't like horror or sci-fi, they will have a channel to go to. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
The thing with westerns, though, is it's kind of a dead genre. And Elmore Leonard, one of my favorite authors, started as a western writer, and he switched to crime because he said Hollywood dried up the western market, and he's right.
Brian, did he do Justified? Did he write the Raylan Gibbons stories?
Yeah, he did that. Yeah. He did. One of my favorite Elmore Leonard westerns is a book called 40 Lashes Less One, which is it was actually Quentin Tarantino was supposed to be making that movie, but I don't think it ever happened. I think it kind of just got shelved. He was writing the screenplay for it. It's a great movie. It's a great book. But it's an Elmore Leonard western, and that's how he started. He wrote 3:10 to Yuma. He wrote the original book, 3:10 to Yuma. He did a lot of good westerns. Hombre, a couple of those ones that were made into movies. But then he switched to crime because, like you said, Hollywood had dried up the western market.
Well, see, there you go. Mike was kind of having a little coughing fit. He was yelling 47 meters down. The only thing I'm going to promote my channel wise is when I'm not here bullshitting with you guys is it's Shark Week on Discovery Channel. On my channel, it's been Shark Week. I have been nearly killing myself content wise because I'm trying to upload a shark movie related video one a day for the entire week. I've discussed all 4 Jaws movies. Today I reviewed a really big steaming pile of shit called a Ouija shark. I'm not going to get into it. It's me yelling at the camera for 25 minutes. Tomorrow I will have a video for Deep Blue Sea up, and then per Mike's recommendation, Saturday night I will have a video for 47 meters down, which I'm very excited for.
If I asked you this, are you doing any of the Sharknado movies?
I am not. I mean, they are very hit and miss. I love my trash cinema, but the bad movies that I watched this week, I don't want to watch another fucking shark movie till next year. Even the ones that I enjoy.
Eric, if you end up watching a movie called Sharktopus, make sure you have a copious supply of fucking narcotics.
Yeah, I got my cyanide pill in my pocket. Don't worry, buddy. I'll be ready. But I am very excited for 47 meters down because not just based on Mike's recommendation. I did some research. I didn't read a lot, but it seems like it's very, very well received.
Okay,
that's a fucking lit movie, and there are two of
I've
them.
heard
and nobody's
of it.
fucking talking about them.
And honestly, in these movies that I've never seen, and Mike's recommended to me, he hasn't let me down yet. So
okay,
he's batting really well with me. So I'm very excited.
Batting 1,000. Those movies are the shit. All right. For me, we were supposed to do The King of New York this week, but I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think Rob wants to do a Friday night show because my schedule has changed, and so Wednesday streams are not available. I'm this week. I'm not sure. Actually, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? It would be nice because I got sick and then I couldn't do it. I'd like to finish that Halloween 2018. It's just a matter of editing it, which is a movie that is just, I mean, whereas I said that they had a lot of, everybody has something to do in this movie. Here, they have a lot of people who just have absolutely, in that movie, that have nothing to do. And so I sincerely mean this. I own this movie on Blu-ray. This could have been an 85-minute fire fucking Halloween sequel. They could have really knocked it out of the park. You could have gotten rid of about 4 people and cut about 20 minutes out of the film. Could have gotten rid of Ray. Could have gotten rid of Allison. Couldn't got rid of that stupid doctor. You could have not retconned the sheriff, Will Patton, because I like Will Patton a lot. He's a great fucking actor. And just made him a regular sheriff of Haddonfield instead of trying to insert him into 1978. And you would have had a really good fucking movie. Instead, what ended up happening was instead of making one fire fucking movie, they planned to make a trilogy of shit movies. So, I'm calling it the retcon that could have been.
That's a good title.
Yeah, well, that's actually what it is. And by the time you get to the second movie, which we've talked about before, and then here we are coming up on the third. So there you go. So that's coming up. I'd like to try to finish that by tomorrow because of being sick, I haven't been able to, and then starting a new job. So that's my plan for the week. Next week, we might be looking at 7. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Let me see what I'm going to do about that. The other movie, I was supposed to be on here with Triple Feature doing a fucking fire movie that came on Netflix called Black Crab. Has anybody seen it?
Haven't heard of it.
Numi fucking Rapace. Holy shit. It's a brand new movie within the past 4 months. Netflix movie. Crazy. Off the fucking rails. So, of course, nobody's talking about it. I'd like to get into that. I got to check with him again and see what's up if we're going to do that. But, there's some tentative plans. I've got to start to rework things now around this new schedule. And,
I was just going to say real quick, remember, we were talking about this in the text group. I think it's August 12th is that movie with Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg where they're killing the vampires.
The vampire one.
It's on Netflix or something. I'm definitely getting in on that.
Yeah. We'll do it. I'd like to do a review for Prey. I just don't know if we can get it in time with my work schedule, because it's on the Friday and my last day off is Friday, and then there are no more nights until the following Thursday. But I wouldn't actually mind talking about it and see if it's good or bad. All right. I think, again, as good a place as any. Thanks to all of you once again. Hang out for a second after the outro. Everybody else, as soon as I have some things solidified, but I'll get the Halloween video out tomorrow, and I'll talk to you later. Good night, everybody.
Cheers.